Everyone, and welcome back to another single button guide. Today we're going to talk about this Subtlety Rogue, which is going to be my last single button guide. Then I will have all the specs, which is very exciting. As always, we're going to go through the stats, the talents, rotation. This is going to be the quick one. I might be doing a longer version. I have done that for the other specs, but I might also just wait for midnight, where I'm anyway going to be remaking all the specs we have. But we basically, with this video here, we have concluded all 36 specs that can use the single button assistant out of 40 specs in total, but 36 is definitely working and is suitable for them. But let's get to it. So let's talk about stats. First of all, I have written up here agility. What do I actually mean by that? So what I basically mean is you should always try to go with the highest upgrade level. So for example, as you can see, my legs here is actually, you can't see that. Here we go. As you can see, my boots here is adventurer. That is the second worst item upgrade. As you can see here, adventurer. But basically what it means is if I got another pair of boots and it was explore, I would never pick it because it would simply be too low of an eye level. Agility is such an important spell and stat. And actually both mastery and versatility is really, and actually also critical strike is very useful for a sub rogue. So it doesn't matter too much about the secondary stats. It's most important is actually to get the highest upgrade level, as you can see out here: explore, adventure, veteran, champion, hero, buff. So for example, my boots here is adventure. That means if I get an explore item, I would never equip it because it's simply too low eye level. But if I got a veteran, champion, hero, myth, I would take it without even looking at the secondary stats because the item level would be so much higher, I would get so much more agility, and it would just be so much better. So then what happens if I already had a champion item and I got another champion item? That is when you're going to look at the secondary stats. First of all, we have mastery. Basically, mastery, it's a very nice it's the most important secondary stat for a Subtlety Rogue. Basically what it does is increase the damage done by your finishing moves. Subtlety Rogue is using a lot of finishing moves, especially with your cooldowns, with Shadow Blades and so on. You're going to be spamming a lot of finishing moves, and basically because I have 51% mastery, it also increases all my finishing moves by 51%, which is insane. Also, in both our specs, we're using basically this spell here called Italian, and it's going to give you, when you actually use it with a single button system automatically, your mastery is going to be on something between 90 and 120, which is insane. But basically for those whatever it is, 24 seconds, you're going to be having almost 100% mastery, which is insane. So you're going to be doing so much damage. But again, mastery is just omega when it comes to damage because it increases the damage of all your finishes by a lot. Then we also have versatility. Versatility is nice for sub rogues because sub rogues likes to do direct damage, and versatility is always increasing the damage by a flat amount and not any randomness. That is why it's over critical strike, because critical strike has a chance to do a crit, but versatility will always deal more damage. Also, versatility has a bonus where it also reduces the damage you take, but basically we always go with mastery first to get more finishing move damage, then we go with versatility for the flat out more damage, and then we have crit, which helps us doing critical strikes. Basically, one of the reasons why we don't have too much crit on the first tier is because we have a lot of talents that just, automatically gives us instant crits and more crits and, higher crit chance. We already have passively quite big crit chance from our talents and passives. So that's why it's kind of it's a fill down. So both mastery, versatility, and critical strike is actually quite good for sub rogues. Mastery is just omega, versatility is just after, and critical strike is just after versatility. Then we have haste. Haste is not too much of an important for sub rogue. It of course helps with ticking more of Rupture, which is our damage over time. It helps reducing the global cooldown, and it helps reducing the attack speed of our daggers. But we already have super insane fast attack speed, which is 1.8 seconds with these daggers I have on right now. So haste is it's nice, but it's not omega. It doesn't really help too much. Of course, with the single button assistant, which is increasing our global cooldown by 25%, it can of course help reducing that, but still the amount of additional damage you get from mastery and versatility is, I still don't think on paper it's going to really impact much. So you should probably still stick with like mastery versatility, even though haste can help, you know, the punishment of single button assistant. So I would still go with this. So again, highest upgrade level, mastery, versatility, crit, and haste. That's it. Let's move to the talents. So when we talk about talents, we're basically using the Trickster, which is both the one we're going to be using in our dungeon build, and we're also going to be using it in our raid build. The only difference between the raid and dungeon build is very, very slightly. In the dungeon build, we like to use the Rotten, which is helping us to do like more after activating Symbol of Death. Your next two attacks that generate combo points deal 35% increased damage and a guaranteed critical strike. One of the reasons, for example, the single button assistant also likes to use that is because when you use Symbol of Death, which it will always use in the start of the combo, you're basically going to be spamming spells like, it could be like Shuriken Storm, or even like, yeah, actually Shuriken Storm, which then would be 100% critting and, you know, which is quite nice. So it's kind of like help you to do more burst damage in the start of a fight when you have multiple mobs, because it's going to be spamming a lot of like those AoE spells, which is nice with the Rotten. Also, we also have this one here where Rupture deals 20% more damage and as Shadow, and applies to one additional nerfy enemy. So again, one more damage ability that increases like damage to multiple targets, which is why this one is really great for dungeons. Then we have the raid build, which is removing those two spells, which is more like focused on AoE. And instead it takes something like Shadow Technique. Shadow Technique generates 3 additional energy. And also we get this one here, Symbol of Death, increase your critical strike chance by 6. So more single target focus, more AoE spam target focused. Also in the dungeon build we are using Vigor and Facility, which gives more like, basically it just gives me more energy and energy regeneration, which is quite nice. Also, then in the raid build, we're using Lethality, which is increasing your crit chance, and also critical strike damage bonus of your attacks. Generate combo points is increased by 10. And also we have Cold Blood, which can, you know, make your next ability 100% crit. Increases the critical strike chance of your damaging of your next damaging spell by 100%. So that is just small changes between, as you can see here, the raid build here, we're getting these two, and in the dungeon build we keep these two and these two over here. So it's not like a big change when you go from the raid build and dungeon build. It's more just like dungeon build likes to have more energy and spamming and dealing more damage with, you know, like that with AoE damage, and the raid build is more focused on like direct damage to the raid boss. I would always recommend you to use the dungeon build for any content in the game except raid. In the raid, I would use the raid one, but anything else, dungeon, delves, leveling, and so on, you should be using the dungeon build. So dungeon build, use for anything, raid build only for raids. Again, both of the specs is using Trickster. Trickster is basically a passive tree where you don't have to think about it. So Backstab and Shadow Strike now also strikes with the Unseen Blade, dealing 340k damage. Target struck phased for 10 seconds. So basically, Backstab and Shadowstrike now is going to also cast like this additionally Unseen Blade on the target, which is also going to make, well, deal a lot of damage, but also going to make them phased for 10 seconds. And phased enemies take 5% more damage from you and cannot parry your attacks. But this effect may only occur once every 20 seconds. So also we have this one here, Secret Technique applies phase to any target struck. So you have a spell over here called Secret Technique, but when you actually then use this one here, it will also get phased. Why am I talking so much about phased? It's because whenever you have strike 4 times with an Unseen Blade, your next Eviscerate will be performed as a coup de grace, functioning as it had if it had consumed 5 additional combo points. Basically, after your Unseen Blade is automatically being used 4 times, it will upgrade your next Eviscerate, and it will be like if it was 5 more combo points, like dealing a lot of damage. But it has a bonus: if the primary target is phased, gain 5 stacks of Flawless Form, which is kind of nice because you can see up here, Flawless Form, Unseen Blade, and Secret Technique increase the damage of your finishing moves by 3% for 12 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. So what they usually say with the rotation when you're playing normal as Subtlety Rogue is that you should only be using Coup de Grace with a target that is actually affected by phased. With the single button assistant, it can be a bit hard because it will automatically use it. But I'm just saying that every 20 seconds you will automatically apply phase to the target, but also for 10 seconds, but also your secret technique is also going to be using it. So most of the time you should be having phase on the target, so you don't have to think too much about it. But again, we can't really control it, so it is what it is. But that's the talents. Again, we have a dungeon build we use for anything, and we have a raid build that we only use for the raid. Let's move to the rotation. But when it comes to rotation, basically we should always start in stealth. There's multiple reasons for starting stealth. For example, when it's a single target damage, like, one target, it will use the spell Shadowstrike to start. Well, first of all, it would actually start using Symbol of Death, invoked as ancient Symbol of Power, generating 40 energy and increasing damage done by 16. It's always going to start with that. I know you're going to be overcapping with energy, but it's going to increase your damage by 16, and that's just how it is. It's always going to start with that. Then what they want to be using is Shadowstrike, which can only be used from stealth, which deals a lot of damage. It will also teleport you behind the target and stuff like that. Also, we, for example, have this talent here. After entering stealth, your next combo point generating ability generate full combo points. So that actually means the first Shadow Strike you're going to be using is actually going to be giving you full combo points. So what it would look like is if you stand far away from the target, it will actually start using Shadow Strike. If you get close to the target for some reason, it will use Symbol of Death first. But funny enough, when you start, a bit further away, it's going to start with Shadow Strike, and then of course, then it will start your rotation as usually. But because of this talent here, it now gave me full combo points, which is quite nice. Again, always start in stealth, just always. It's also going to make you move way faster. Again, if you're on single target, it's going to be using way different spells, because it's going to be using spells like Shadowstrike, Eviscerate, and so on, where when it's multiple target, it's going to be spamming Shuriken Storm, Instinct, and Black Powder. So Shuriken Storm, Black Powder, when it's AoE, basically going to be spamming that. Single target, it's going to be spamming Shadowstrike, Backstab, and Eviscerate when you are attacking. Also, it's very important that you have to be behind. You need to try and be behind the target. It's not as important when it's multiple targets, because you have a spell here, Backstab. So Backstab is saying damage is increased by 20 when you are behind your target, and critical strike apply, find weakness for 10 seconds. So basically, when you are behind your target, like now here, your backstab is actually going to deal like 20% more increased damage, which is quite nice. So it's kind of trying to keep the core of rogues what they did in old days, where you had to be behind your target to your backstab. Now you don't have to. It just, whenever it uses backstab, it's going to increase the damage by 20. Again, when you're dealing a lot of multiple damage here, like multiple target, look at this. Like, I go to stealth, I keep spamming one, and it will technically never really use what is it called, a backstab, because it will keep going from Black Powder, it will go to Shuriken Storm, Symbol of Death. You can see here down here, Secret Technique. It just keeps using the AoE abilities, so it will never really use backstab. So honestly, when you're against multiple targets, it seems like it doesn't really matter like where you're standing. Like, you could just be whatever you want. So quite easy. But the moment you get to a single target, it will start using backstab whenever Shadow Dance is not active. So what actually is the real rotation? Like, normally, I mean, it's not the pro rotation I'm going to mention to you, but normally what would happen is you would start with a Shadow Strike, you would go into, some kind of Shadow Dance phase, and when you are in the Shadow Dance phase, you can spam Shadow Strike, and then, because Shadow Strike requires stealth, but Shadow Dance is basically, that's the core of Subtlety Rogues, that you use Shadow Dance, and then you can use stealth abilities for 12 seconds, which is quite nice, and also it increases damage done by 30. But what you would be doing then is you would be using Shadow Dance and then Shadow Blades, because now all my combo spells, all my combo generating spell is now going to give me full combos. So that basically means we can use Shadow Dance, Shadow Blades, and then we can use Shadow Strike, Eviscerate, Shadow Strike, Eviscerate, Shadow Strike, Eviscerate. You can keep using your combo points fully combo points, because you're going to get full combo points from this rotation. So what it normally would look like is you go to stealth, you keep pressing 1 until it uses Shadow Dance. The moment it uses Shadow Dance, you hit Shadow Blades here ASAP. So you can see here, press 1, now it uses Shadow Blades, now we use it used Shadow Dance, and now you keep pressing 1. So now you can see, because we have this one active, it keeps giving us full combo points whenever it uses our combo point generator. So you can see it keeps using Black Powder, Shuriken Storm, Black Powder, Shuriken Storm, and boom, 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 boom. Now, of course, they are off, and it will go down to like a normal rotation, which is, again, like these abilities here. Then, if we try going to a single target mob over here, you will see that it's very, very different. I don't have to switch to my raid talents because it doesn't really change many of my active spells, only it gives me Cold Blood. But again, that one is also inside a single button system, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, how the rotation will look like was single target would be the same. You would be starting like spamming. Once that you use Shadow Dance, you will very fast use Shadow Blades, and then you just press 1. And now you can see it keeps going from Shadowstrike to Eviscerate, Shadowstrike, Eviscerate, Shadowstrike, Eviscerate, Shadowstrike, Eviscerate, boom, 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 boom. It just keeps going through that. So I would say Subtlety Rogue is usually one of the hardest specs to play in the game. It's very popular, it deals a lot of damage, but it's one of the hardest specs to play in the game. But with single button assistant, it's easy. It's very nice. Like it's very nice, since you can just like spam 1, and whenever it uses, again, like whenever it uses like Shadow Dance, it's very important you use Shadow Blades. So don't open up with Shadow Blades. Press 1 all the time until it uses Shadow Dance, like now. And now I'm using Shadow Blades, because you need to use Shadow Blades after it uses Shadow Dance. And then you just press 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And that's basically it. You don't have to worry about it. And again, for like 1 to 2 mobs, it's important you stay behind the target, so backstab actually can deal more damage. You can see now it actually used the backstab, which will, of course, deal 20% more damage. Like it used 3 backstabs now, which is important, because now I just deal 20% more damage. But of course, when it's multiple targets, it's never going to be using backstab, and it doesn't really matter where you're standing. So, just so you know. Which other spells do we have? We also have Crimson Vial, which is our self-healing spell. It's basically healing you for 25% of your health over 4 seconds. We also have Subtlety. That one is only for the dungeon build. In the raid build, we don't use it. In the dungeon build, we use it. It will automatically use itself whenever you get below 30 energy, but it's up to you if you want to use it or not. It can help you burst. Basically, it actually can help you burst a lot, because it will give you 20% more it will give you 20% more mastery. So if you used it in the start, it will actually like now increase your mastery by 20%, but it's only going to be on for 20 seconds. So it's kind of up to you if you want to like use it ASAP or later, but it will automatically be used whenever you get below 30% energy, 30%, actually 30 energy. But as you can see, we never really get close to it. So technically it's not really going to go down there. So I mean, you could just be using it and, get that mastery buff. It's kind of up to you how you want to use it. But I mean, for the most optimal damage, I guess it is to use it while you're actually doing your rotation, because you're never going to go below 30 energy. I mean, look right now. There's no chance we're going to get down below that. So we are actually, it was close. Like we're down on 80, 60, 40. Oh, and then we back up again. So yeah. I guess you could be using it in the start where, we're going to be doing a lot of burst damage, since, 20% more mastery is going to help you a lot with more damaging on your finishing moves. Then we also got Kick, in case, like, this mob here was, like, casting a spell, and we don't want it to cast that spell, then we can interrupt it by using Kick. Then we also got Shadow Step. It will basically teleport you behind your target and make you run faster for a little bit of time, but it's very nice, and you have 2 charges of it. So now you basically have both Shadow Step that can teleport behind a target, and you also got Shadowstrike, which can be used from stealth or when you are using Shadow Dance. We also got Sprint, ability that makes you run very, very fast for 12 seconds. We also got Croak of Shadows, which is basically making you, like you cannot be targeted or casted by spells, and if you have any spells on you, they will be removed. We also have Evasion, which is increasing your dodge chance by 100%, so if anyone is like trying to attack you with melee attacks, they're gonna be dodging. We also have Vanish, which is getting you out of combat, you know, like getting you out of combat in case the mobs are targeting you or you wiping and you want to get away. In the other specs right now, we are using Vanish for like resetting like damage cooldowns, but we don't use it in the Subtlety talent tree because we have Shadow Dance, so we actually don't need to use this one here called Subterfuge. So yes, I know in Assassin and in Outlaw Rogue, you can use Vanish to basically reset like, you know, your cooldowns. Well, not reset your cooldowns, but can help you with the damage. But in Subtlety, we don't use it. Then we also have Kidney Shot. If you have some combo points on the target, then you can use Kidney Shot to also stun it in case you want to stun it because it's casting a spell that you don't want it to cast. We also have Blind here, and Blind is actually, because of this talent here, it's going to blind all nerby enemies. So if this was 5 enemies like down here, like these 5 down here, if I then used Blind, it will actually blind all of them. So imagine that all these 5 mobs were casting a spell, and you don't want them to cast that spell, then you can blind them all at one time, which is amazing. We also have this one here called Trick or Trade. It's a spell you can use on an ally, and then all the aggro, all the threat you do whenever you attack an enemy, it will go to that person you have selected. So imagine this was the tank. I would then use Tricks of Trade on him, and then for an hour, because of this talent here, for an entire hour, all the damage we do, all the threat we generate, they're not going to attack me. They will always attack the tank, which is very nice because now whenever you like imagine the tank is like pulling a big group of mobs, and he only has like really good aggro on 3 of them. Then while you attack the 2 others, you're actually helping the tank holding aggro. So it's a really cool spell, but it's super nice. We also have Distract in case you're gonna distract some mobs, make them stop moving. We also have Feint, which is a spell that reduces all damage you take by 40%, but only area of effect. I never use this one here, Loosenesses. I know some people use it, so Feint also reduces normal damage by 20%. I don't like it, so I use this one here called Cheat Death. So if you were about to die, Fatal Attack instead reduce you to 7% of your maximum health for 3 seconds afterward. You take 85% reduced damage. So it's kind of like saving you. You were supposed to die, but it now brings you back to 7% health, and now you take 85% less damage. So it's kind of like saving you, and I kind of like that more. Then of course we all have the other stealth abilities down here: Pickpocket, Zap. We also got Cheap Shot, and we also have Shroud, which is the AoE ability. Like you can make all your team members or raid members in stealth and help them go past some mobs, just in case. And don't even ask about poisons, because the single button rotation will use poisons for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And if you try to use poisons that it doesn't use, it will go back. Like for example, if I ever want to use like wound poison, it will actually switch back to instant poison. So actually having this one here, wound poison, is actually wrong, because I should change that to something else. I will update my talents, but we should actually not use that one, since it will always force us away from wound poisons, no matter what. So yeah, a lesson learned there. So thanks for watching. That was all the single button assistant. We have now all single button specs on the Discord channel, which is amazing. So now I can finally start making a tier list on which single button assistant builds I find most fun, most efficient. Yeah, I think I will probably make a tier list like that. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or like the video, or even comment anything that's going to help the algorithm. And if you want to support even further, feel free to become a YouTube member, and your name will be at the end of the credits. And also, you get a little cool badge and commenting and some behind the scene footage. So that's it. All right, enough talking. Thanks for watching. Peace out.